This video was first uploaded on the 16th of June 2017, before being copyright claimed in mid-January 2024. While I've made it no secret how much I dislike this video, for the sake of the continuity of the series that follows, it is worth preserving it in its original form as much as possible while following YouTube's current copyright system. As such, for any first-time viewers, be warned, there are mistakes in this video, which I try to correct in later installments. If in doubt, check the comments. Thank you for your understanding, and I hope you enjoy regardless of 2017 naffness. In 1979, the small Japanese village of Hinamizawa befell a terrible curse. The manager of a dam construction site was reportedly hacked to pieces. While 5 of the attackers were captured, 1 was never found, taking with him the manager's severed right arm. The next year, a mother and stepfather fell from a viewing platform, getting swept away by the river below, leaving behind 2 children. While the stepfather's body was recovered, the mother's was never found. The 3rd year, the head priest of the village shrine died of an unknown illness. His wife disappeared, reportedly drowning herself, leaving their young daughter alone. On the 4th year, a housewife was beaten to death, with the culprit supposedly captured. 5 days later, her nephew disappeared. All of these events are believed to be the work of the guardian deity of the village, Oyashiro, with the event dubbed Oyashiro's Curse. Now, in 1983, will these mysterious occurrences be answered, or will the curse claim its 5th victims? Welcome, my friends, to Higurashi, the anime retrospective, spirited away by Demon's Arc. In all honesty, I discovered this show by complete coincidence. The video in question, which has sadly been taken down now, was actually the opening title sequence for the 2nd series. And even then I only clicked on it because I mistook one of the characters in the show for Sakura from Cardcaptors, which myself and a friend were re-experiencing at the time. Going through the comments section, I was told that this series was, and I quote, a thrilling bloody mystery. At the time, I wasn't in the best place, and I was looking for something to take my mind off of the events of my life. And plunging into a genre that I wasn't too keen on at the time seemed like a pretty good distraction. Let me just state, I'm not a fan of gore or horror for that matter, so this wasn't my usual cup of tea. But if you're as squeamish as I am, I can personally state all the bad bits aren't that bad. Then again, I could have just become desensitized to the whole thing. That's kinda concerning. Then again, look at all this cute shit they're doing. Oh, they're having a picnic. Oh, look at the little eggheads hanging out at school. This is totally the stuff you'd expect to see. I mean, how bad can it be? Thank goodness I was wearing my brown pants. I mean, wow, what a way to start. This is some bold imagery. I certainly wasn't prepared for that. How can they top a scene like that? I'll tell you how. By having a kid wake up and have some breakfast. Brilliant! Our story begins with our protagonist, Keiichi Mahibara, describing the peaceful life he now lives in Hinamizawa after moving to the village little over a month ago. We're quickly introduced to the best character in the franchise, Ren Ryugu, and the second fiddle in more ways than one, Mion Sonozaki. Keiichi's just returned from a weekend away, and the 3 are heading to class where, wait a minute, all the kids are different ages.
Hinamizawa is a teeny little village. The only school has 1 classroom for everybody. Our class is made up of about 15 students total, and they're all of different ages and in different grades. And we all share the same teacher.
Wow. That's one hard-working teacher. It's hard enough trying to teach a normal class, but here she's teaching multiple students at different academic levels. 1 minute she's teaching the 2 times table, the next she's calculating the velocity of a latent swallow. Bravo, lady, bravo! But while we're here, there must be more than the 15 students we see, because this school building is massive. And if there aren't, that's a lot of wasted space. I don't think we even see any other rooms in this place until the final arc. What the hell are they doing with all this space? Actually, better question, what's the headmaster doing? Yeah, there's a headmaster, and I'm pretty sure he doesn't do anything but signal the bell. I mean, seriously, what the hell could you be doing that's so important? Hello, children. Have a good day in education. I'll be in here doing business stuff. Oh boy, oh boy. Oh, I'm so happy I built this place. It's got the best signal in the whole of the village, so I can watch. Rena and Mion show Keiichi around the village, finishing at the local shrine, where we meet Rika Furude and Satoko Hojo. But I'm sure they're not important. After some anime hijinks, Rena takes Keiichi to the village dump, so she can go rummaging around for cute things. Yeah, Rena's got a tendency to find random things adorable to the point of obsession. She's kinda like a magpie, going after anything shiny. Rena Ryuku hasn't always been this glam. She was a drab little gal once. Today's obsession is a statue of the Kentucky Fried Chicken Colonel. Keiichi, ever helpful, leaves Rena to her own devices.
Are all girls from the country like this?
You know, I wouldn't be surprised if everything that's about to happen is karma as a result of that statement. A guy who doesn't know what personal space is turns up and strikes up a conversation with Keiichi. Keiichi jokes that Rena is looking for a dead body. What? Oddly specific?
That was a horrible crime. They're still missing one of the arms, aren't they?
Missing... what?
Of course, after revealing something like that, he'd go into great detail, revealing a mystery, and he's just walking away. Helpful much? Clearly spooked, Keiichi asks Rena if anything had happened at the dump before. Apparently a dam was supposed to be built here, but Rena says she doesn't know any more since she only moved to the village last year herself. This would be innocent enough, but she acts kind of suspicious for someone who doesn't know anything. The next day, back at school, we're introduced to the club our main cast attends. Because we can't have an anime set in a school without the main cast attending a club. Dem's the rules! The group play different games, competing against one another with the winner choosing a punishment for the loser. In this case, the gang are playing a card game. Keiichi is at a disadvantage since the cards are so battered and old that the others can tell what cards he's holding, leading to a montage of Keiichi having his ass handed to him. However, Keiichi is able to make one of the cards look like another one, leading to him winning the final round but losing the overall game. He's punished by having Mion draw on his face, making him look like a rejected member of KISS.
Seeing as how this is your first day in our club, I'll be nice and go easy on ya.
Okay, I know that wasn't supposed to sound sexual, but...
Later, Mion gives a better description on what happened at the dam construction. The government wanted to build a dam, which would mean demolishing the village. Naturally, the village people weren't happy and fought back, gathering as much support as they could and marching on Tokyo. Eventually, construction was halted altogether. Still curious, Keiichi asks if anyone had been assaulted or murdered during any of the fights, to which Mion forcefully states no one had been killed. Back at the dump, Keiichi meets up with Rena to help her uncover the Colonel statue, saying they'll need something to help get him out. Rena runs off, leaving Keiichi to discover a collection of old newspapers, detailing the death of the manager of the dam's construction. The dam's manager was lynched and hacked into pieces. One of the murderers is still on the loose, still in possession of one of the manager's arms. I'll be honest, I don't read that many newspapers. But are they really this detailed? I'm just surprised it went into that greater detail about the lynching of a man, specifically stating that he'd been split into pieces with an axe. They've even got a little stick man demonstrating. I mean, cultural differences and all, but damn Japan! While Keiichi is poring over the newspapers, Rena reappears, brandishing a hatchet in what is a really cool shot. Keiichi, with his head still spinning from what he's read and the shock of an axe-wielding Rena, states they should probably come back another day and try again. Naturally, Keiichi is immediately suspicious of his friends, wondering why they lied to him, and demands to know if there is a local village festival coming. Priorities! As it turns out, there is, as the next day the gang are talking about the yearly festival Watanagashi, otherwise known as the Cotton Drifting, taking place on the 3rd Sunday of June. And that's why this had to be uploaded today. The festival is to pay respects to the village guardian god, Oyashiro. The festival takes place with the gang participating in a barrage of challenges, followed by a ceremonial dance by Rika, concluding in the actual cotton drifting itself. As far as ceremonial traditions go, the symbolism behind the cotton drifting itself is kinda neat. You take a ball of cotton, dunk it in the river, let it absorb your sins, then release the cotton as it washes down the river. While this is kinda cute, Lord knows what it's doing to the environment. Who am I kidding? Global warming doesn't exist in the 1980s. As Keiichi just wanders about the place, he comes across the wannabe Peter Parker, real name Jiro Tomatake, and his lady friend, Mio Takano. Keiichi inquires about the dam construction, since Jiro was the one who sparked the whole thing, to which the pair gleefully talk about the gruesome murders that have taken place every year on the night of the cotton drifting. The opening of this video detailed those events, so I won't go over them again. Needless to say, Keiichi is naturally spooked by the whole Oyashiro's curse thing. But damn it, we need more high school hijinks! The next day, Keiichi meets Oishi, a police detective who, without little provocation, reveals that Jiro is dead.
The body was found by one of our patrol cars as it was heading back to the station from the festival. It happened right where the road starts leading out of town. The autopsy told us he'd slit his own throat with his fingernails. For some reason, Mr. Tomitake decided he was going to use all his strength to claw at his own throat. We figured he might have been on drugs, so we ran a bunch of tests, but everything came back negative.
Oishi, do you really want to go into this much detail? Keiichi can only be about 14, 15. Maybe you want to dial it back a bit. To make matters worse, Takano has also gone missing. Oyashiro's curse has struck again. But as it turns out, Keiichi doesn't buy the whole divine punishment mumbo-jumbo. Neither does Oishi, who basically hires Keiichi to be his eyes and ears within the village. Oh yeah, because getting a kid involved with a murder investigation is a genius idea! Keiichi doesn't sleep that night. Gee, I wonder why! And spends most of the next school day just sleeping at his desk. Can't blame him since he's been given the responsibility of helping solve a murder! He awakes, ever so briefly, to hear Mion and Rena having a hushed conversation, where Mion says Takano could have been spirited away by the demon.
He said it! He said it!
Later, club is cancelled, with Keiichi and Rena staying behind to clear away the desks. Keiichi finds a card with the name Satoshi on it, the club had been previously playing a card game, and asks Rena if he had been transferred out of the school, to which Rena denies knowing anything. Of course, we know he didn't transfer out. He left to become a Pokemon master. On the way home, Keiichi finally gets his fingers out of his ass and calls Rena out on the lies she and the others have been telling. And you know what? I'm 100% behind him. It's been an episode and a half and we haven't had anything. I want some answers, damn it!
Oh yeah, and what about you? Aren't you lying and keeping secrets from all of us?
I've changed my mind, I don't want to know anything! I mean, Jesus, what happened to her eyes? If a girl suddenly turned all snake eyes, I'd be running for the hills. If that wasn't enough, in one fell swoop, Rena is immediately able to turn the tables on Keiichi and ask him what he's been doing with Oishi, which he tries and fails to cover up, leading to...
Liar!
That. I mean, where do I even begin? The calm voice, somehow knowing exactly what Keiichi is hiding. That he's hiding anything in the first place. The snake eyes. The creepy factor has drop-kicked its way onto the scene. This is the kind of stuff people reference to when they try to sell the series. One moment you'll have your happy slice of life story, the next you'll never trust a pretty girl ever again. I like to consider this the first point in my proof that Rena is the best counter. In fact, add another point on there for the scene at the end of episode 1. That was pretty great. With Keiichi's pants considerably more moist, he returns home, where he gets a phone call from Oishi. Keiichi inquires as to the meaning behind the phrase, spirited away by the demon. To which Oishi says,
It's an expression unique to that village, but as far as the terminology goes, it's no different from the meaning of the regular spirited away.
No, not that one. Apparently, Hinamizawa used to be called the Village of the Demon.
Demon? Like the ones in hell?
No! Like the ones you find in Parliament! Oishi goes over the previous year's victims again, reaffirming that one person dies and another disappears, as part of the legend of Oyashiro's curse. We also learn the name of the missing kid from last year, the nephew of the woman who had been beaten to death. His name is Satoshi. Before the plot can go any further, Keiichi's dad comes a-knocking, offering tea for two, saying Rena had been standing outside his door, clearly overhearing everything Keiichi was telling Oishi. Oh. As episode 3 begins, Keiichi is feeling under the weather, so he visits the village doctor and gets a shot. On the way home, he meets Oishi, who takes him out for lunch at Angel Mort, where the food is sweet and the outfits are wonderfully impractical. After Satoshi went missing last year, Oishi began digging up some dirt on our main girls. And if you thought the girls hadn't had that much involvement in the story so far, ho boy, you'd be wrong. A week or so before the death of the damn construction manager, he'd gotten into a couple of fights with Mion. The couple who fell to their deaths in the second year, they were Sotoko's parents. The village priest and his wife, they were Rika's parents. The housewife from last year was Sotoko's aunt, meaning Satoshi, the boy who went missing, is Sotoko's brother. All the deaths and disappearances over the past 4 years are all linked to Keiichi's friends. But wait, I hear you cry! What about Rena? Well, Rena used to live in Hinamizawa before transferring out, only to transfer back after smashing all the windows in her school as well as attacking several students. She was given some medication and some counselling, where she mentions that Oyashiro stood over her bed as she slept. All the victims knew Keiichi's little group of friends, including Jiro, since he'd met the girls on his previous visits to the village. And we finally get an answer as to why Oishi is telling Keiichi all this stuff.
The person in danger is actually you.
That night, Keiichi is visited by Rena and Mio, offering him some food that I'm not even gonna try and pronounce. Things are going pretty well until— oh my god, the snake eyes are spreading! Somehow they knew Keiichi met with Oishi and leave, threatening him not to be absent from school the next day. I hope nobody's eating while watching this, because this is gonna freak him out. As Keiichi tries one of the treats, he nearly swallows a needle. Enjoy your food, folks! Keiichi finally believes that the girls are out to kill him, so he leaves a hidden message behind his clock. With newfound determination and a lack of sleep, Keiichi leaves early for school. Then we get this strange scene.
Damn it.
Yeah, this isn't really explained. At all. To this day, I still don't quite understand this bit within the context of the larger story. I have a theory, but we'll leave that for the end. Back at the school, Keiichi finds a bat and prepares to defend himself if necessary. As the other students arrive, they seem concerned to see Keiichi swinging the bat. Sotoko in particular doesn't seem too happy to see it. The club rolls around, where he coldly brushes the girls off. Oh yeah, because being a dick to the people who potentially want to kill you is a real smart move. Keiichi is followed home by Rena, who says she's concerned for him, though Keiichi doesn't buy it. He forces Rena to walk ahead of him, but before she can get too far, she starts asking why he's acting the way he did. Who exactly? Why, none other than the real owner of the bat, Satoshi. Everything Keiichi's been doing is the exact same thing Satoshi did a year ago. right before he transferred. But enough of this pants-crappingly suspenseful scene, let's have an abrupt cut to that night. Yeah, way to ruin the suspense there. Such an awkward way to end that scene too. I mean, what exactly happened after that? Did she just stand over him for a couple of minutes before she got bored? It's just so odd. Things keep getting worse for old K-Bud, as it turns out his parents have left him home alone. Without any prior warning. They just left for Tokyo and oh my god, you left the back door open! People are trying to kill you! In any case, Oishi calls, to which Keiichi tells him all about the needle in his food. But when Oishi asks him to look for it for evidence, Keiichi can't find it. At this point the doorbell rings. Keiichi, like an idiot, decides to answer it. It's Rena, but luckily the door chain keeps her out. She offers to cook some food for him, but Keiichi lies and tells her that his mum is preparing something. Keiichi, why are you even trying to lie at this point? You know she knows that you're alone and this is just an excuse for her to go all snake eyes again.
What have I done to make you lie to me? To me?
It's the truth.
No, it's not!
And there it is! Rena tries to coax Keiichi into opening the door, but he's having none of it, slamming the door on her fingers instead. He returns to Oishi, a little too calmly if you ask me, but I'll put that down to poor direction on the dub side, who goes into more detail about Rena's little tantrum around her previous school. As the power goes out and it starts raining, Keiichi goes to close his window, which shouldn't even be open in the first place, where he sees Rena standing outside, saying the words "I'm sorry" over and over again. Which Keiichi then repeats to Oishi. Well, this phone call got a little awkward. Speaking of awkward, we have another questionable scene transition as we skip to the next morning. I mean, how long did Rena stand out there for? How long did Keiichi stand there looking at her? How long did Oishi stay on the phone for? Just listening to Keiichi say "I'm sorry" to him. In any case, Mion decides to call Keiichi out on his bullshit, since his actions are really spooking everyone out. Keiichi also calls out Mion's bullshit by saying the gang shouldn't have hidden Satoshi's disappearance or the whole Oyashiro's curse from him, declaring them not to be his friends.
Let's go. Being late for class is for losers.
Nerd!
And again, we get another strange ending to a scene. Mion starts expositing quite openly that she's going to have Oishi killed. Keiichi clearly hears her. Then we just cut to the next scene. I'm sorry for going on about these, but this is the third time in a row now. If it's to do with the episode runtime, then fair dues, but surely there's other stuff that could have been cut down. So Keiichi is followed home by Rena, who appears to be able to teleport now. Frankly, I'd love to show this whole scene, because it genuinely is amazing, even in the dub. But YouTube's copyright system would have my butt. Simply put, Rena freaks Keiichi the fuck out with this now iconic laugh. It's pretty much confirmed that Oyashiro is real and the one behind everything, even stating that she's the only one who can protect Keiichi from being transferred out.
You're gonna have to trust me. Do that and I can save you. Trust is important.
Keiichi pushes her away, running off, before meeting some random people in the forest who proceed to knock him out. Not how I saw this scene ending, but okay. Keiichi wakes up in his room, with Rena watching over him, Mion turning up a couple of seconds later. They start talking about somebody called the Coach.
You don't know who the coach is? When I say the coach, I mean the coach.
Okay, now really isn't the time to be acting coy, Mion. You know Keiichi's been acting up for a while now. As Keiichi insists as to who the coach is, the girls just start laughing at him, declaring they're gonna do one of their punishment games before he gets there. Producing a needle. Keiichi remembers back to something Oishi told him when they first met, that Jiro could have been on drugs that might have caused him to claw out his throat. As Keiichi struggles, he gets a brief flashback to some moments of him hanging out with his friends. Before we find ourselves back where episode 1 began, with Keiichi killing both Mion and Rena with a bat. It's a strangely beautiful and tragic scene, with some brilliant music, the same bold images we first saw, now a bit clearer, as well as the package of knowing the events that led up to this moment. This is another iconic scene from the franchise, and it's just brilliantly put together. Before long, the coach arrives, in the white van that tried to run Keiichi over earlier. Promptly, Keiichi added some additional words to his hidden letter, as well as taping the needle he had been jabbed with to the back of the clock before escaping. Oishi gets a phone call from Keiichi, who's calling from a public phone, trying to explain what had happened. As patrol cars are scrambled, Keiichi claims that Oyashiro is right behind him, before finally opening up his throat. Our story ends with Oishi narrating his official report. The record states that the note Keiichi left behind was found, but with the needle missing. The middle part of the message, the part detailing that the needle used on him was the same as the one used on Jiro, is now missing, scribbled out. The final part of the message is narrated by Keiichi, pleading that the truth be found, while cicadas cry out in the background. The first chapter of Higurashi is interesting. On the one hand, I think it's a pretty decent introduction to the world and the characters. The mystery is interesting and is genuinely entertaining from a thriller aspect. There are some weak moments for sure, but there are some equally awesome moments to counter that, mostly taken up by Rena, and the ending genuinely wanted me to see more of this series. In regards to the greater story arc in play, this sets up basic elements that we need for all the future arcs, like setting up and establishing particular character traits for the main cast, as well as the greater mystery of Oyashiro's curse. Moving forward, we will see small changes within the narrative and structure of the story, but if there was one constant theme throughout the whole series, that would be paranoia. In some arcs it's more obvious, in others not so much, but in this case paranoia is a major player. Some may consider what I'm about to do as spoilers, and to some degree I do question having this in here. But at the same time, I want to express my feelings and thoughts about this story within the greater context of the story at the same time. So while I'm going to leave the big reveal until part 4, we're at least going to peek behind the curtain to some degree in this next section. If you want to remain unspoiled, then follow the timestamp on screen now to skip to the character bits. From the moment Jiro tells Keiichi that someone was murdered at the junkyard, Keiichi's world is sent tail-spinning out of control, not helped by the deaths of Jiro and Takano. Arguments could be made that Keiichi's paranoia is well-founded since his friends are trying to kill him, but that's not necessarily the truth. As someone who has been and can be quite paranoid from time to time, I can safely state that paranoia can lead you to believe things that didn't necessarily happen. Let's start by looking at one of the standouts of these episodes, the iconic snake eyes. While some may say it's a sign of the cast being possessed by Oyashiro or a sign of their allegiance to him, nothing like that is explicitly said, but I think that's a fair assumption, as well as a cool aesthetic, this is a byproduct of Keiichi's paranoia. Same with the line delivery. In any scene where Rena and Mion slow down and talk all creepy like, that's just Keiichi interpreting what they're saying as threatening, even mishearing what they say on occasions. But a big one that I want to put forward is the idea that whole scenes are completely fabricated within Keiichi's mind. Maybe it's the way the scene was put together, but I'm not 100% sure that Rena ever stood outside Keiichi's house in the rain after their little tussle at the door. And the bit where Keiichi and Rena bump into each other with the hatchet totally didn't happen. I bet Keiichi just hallucinated the whole thing, including running into those thugs, when in actuality he probably just ran headfirst into a tree, with Rena finding him as she made her way home. It's a jokey way to look at it, but it's the best I've got. But the earlier scene where Rena calls Keiichi a liar is a little bit more up in the air. I suspect the conversation they had went down more or less the same as it did in Keiichi's mind, but Rena wasn't as pushy as she came across. I can actually see her snapping at him with the little iconic "it's a lie" line, but again, not to the extent that we saw. I don't know if that makes any sense, but I'm gonna go with it. The final hallucination scene, and the one that's confirmed in canon, is right at the end when Mion comes at Keiichi with the needle. Only thing is, that isn't a needle. It's a marker pen. Mion calls it a punishment game, which, if you remember, is a forfeit for one of their club games. In the first episode, we see Mion use the same pen to draw a cat face on Keiichi. That's what makes the deaths of Mion and Rena so tragic in my eyes. They were just trying to have fun, probably trying to make Keiichi feel more comfortable, while in actuality, Keiichi thought his life was in danger. It's like I said, he was clearly distressed, and there's a time and a place for fun and games. Rena and Mion actually brought their deaths on themselves. Damn. Onto the character stuff, which for future reference will be detailing the characters that were most important to the then current arc, going from least important to most important. Jiro and Takano are the two victims of this year's curse. They're there to really kickstart the mystery, to provide the audience with the information on the previous year's victims, the idea of the curse itself, and quickly setting up the stakes. People have died, people are still dying, and more are going to die if the culprit isn't found. Little is learned about Takano in this arc. We know she's a nurse at the local clinic, she's a fan of the occult, and that's pretty much it. In fact, off the top of my head, that's all we ever learn of her. Good thing she's not that important of a character then, isn't it? Tomitake, or Jiro as I've been calling him, simply because it's easier to type, and because it's his name, is a photographer who turns up every year to take pictures of the local wildlife, but isn't very successful. He's a charming fellow and an all-around nice bloke, and that's pretty much it on Jiro too. He's the one who sparks Keiichi's paranoia in the first place, but it's clearly not intentional, although the guy really needs to ask people if he can take their photograph. No wonder he isn't doing well. Rika and Satoko get the least amount of character development in this arc. I honestly wouldn't blame you if you had completely forgotten them, since they don't really play into this story at all. We're pretty much given their character stats and that's it. Satoko has a rather rough exterior which she uses to hide her true feelings and emotions. Can't really blame her though. She lost her mum, her dad, her stepdad, her brother, her aunt, and her uncle has pretty much disowned her. The girl's like 10 or 11. That's some pretty messed up shit to happen. It's not really shown here. In fact, I don't think it's really shown anywhere else in the series, but she's actually rather crafty and has a reputation for making harmless traps, usually springing them on Keiichi. It's actually a nice little character detail. She's crafty. It's kinda neat. Rika is quite timid, usually keeping herself to herself, but still interacting with the others with a smile on her face. As it's revealed, she's the daughter of the now deceased village priest and has taken up the responsibility of the cotton drifting ritual. This sense of responsibility seems to have rubbed off on her, giving her a bit of wisdom in her young age. She does have some rather strange lines throughout the arc that make you tilt your head, like how she knew Keiichi should hold on to the bat. But I'm sure I'm just overthinking it. Oishi is your typical gruff cop. Not even kidding, he's close to retiring. He's been investigating the case of Oyashiro ever since the dam manager's death in the first year. However, I find it kind of interesting that he doesn't buy into the whole curse thing one bit. After spending so much time, doing so much research and investigations into the deaths and disappearances, he still doesn't believe in any supernatural forces that want to protect the village. Credit to him for his resolve. However, I have to bring back the topic of involving a school kid in his investigations. Sure, he's keeping an eye on Keiichi in the off chance the girls really do want to kill him, but adding fuel to Keiichi's already burning paranoia isn't a good idea. I also find it kind of strange that in the final report, he seems to be blaming Keiichi for the final events. Yes, Keiichi killed 2 people, but you heard first-hand that Keiichi was in some kind of mad panic, saying that someone was behind him, forcing him to claw out his own throat. I don't know, maybe I'm interpreting it wrong. I like Oishi though, he's pretty cool. Mion, the resident tomboy, team leader, elders of the main group, and the one with the most unrealistic body standards. I mean, look at that hair. So unnatural. Mion is undoubtedly the most funny out of all the main cast in my opinion. She has the funniest lines, be that down to the original writing or something the dub added in. She has the funniest facial expressions, and she does seem to be a really good person to hang around with. She's very genuine, if that makes any sense. She can joke around and have fun when she needs to, but you can also have a serious conversation with her. In fact, in reviewing this first episode alone, I've actually come to appreciate her more than I did before. Mion does have some creepy moments, but hers are more underplayed, like when she first tells Keiichi that nothing happened at the dam site. Though she might not openly admit it, she's an extremely loyal friend, especially to her fellow club members, and would do anything to protect them. That is a truly great friend. Rena. Renna. Where do I begin? I've already covered Renna once in my top 10 favourite fictional couples list, so I'll try not to tread on the same ground here. Renna is frickin' crazy. And that's no hallucination. She has been through some insane shit in her life, and it's a miracle that she's come through the other side as sane as she has. Renna is generally a very meek character, always out to have fun and bring a smile to any situation. She has an obsession with anything cute, but that can cover a very wide range of things. As is very evident in this arc, Renna has an extreme darker side, and while it's easier to deduce which parts of Mion's crazy scenes are real or fake, Renna's are a bit harder. Renna has the best lines, the most iconic moments, not just here but in later arcs too, is a fascinating character, and I think I've gushed enough about her as it is. Keiichi? Well, I think he's alright. He's a smart guy, he's got a little cocky streak to him, and he's extremely determined. But I feel like I only like him because he's the main character. We see the world through his eyes. We experience pretty much everything he experiences. We see his hallucinations. We see his side of the story. Now yes, this was the intent, but I don't know, I'm just not as crazy about Keiichi as I think I should be. He's by no means a bad character, I'm just not jazzed about him. I think all the other characters are just better written and their backstories are far more interesting. Keiichi is just kind of there. But then again, considering the original format of Higurashi, it's kind of intentional. For those who don't know, Higurashi was originally a visual novel, a game, in the loosest sense of the term, that was essentially a story played out before the viewer with the most basic of visuals, voice acting for characters, and an outstanding soundtrack. You experience the game through the eyes of Keiichi, hearing his thoughts and so forth, making him a kind of avatar for you. For this reason, he probably wasn't given too distinct of a personality, so the viewer could be drawn in and imagine themselves as Keiichi. Think of Link from The Legend of Zelda, or the protagonist of whatever Pokemon game you're playing. They have hardly any personality, so you can insert yourself into the role and have a more personal experience. Keiichi was exactly the same for the visual novels, and, as a result, he hasn't been translated that well over to the screen. This could be intentional, therefore drawing your attention to the girls and their more interesting stories and arcs, but you just can't be sure. Spirited Away by the Demon is a decent introduction, with some neat ideas and an interesting dynamic, switching from casual slice-of-life stuff to some really gruesome circumstances that make you long for those quiet days to return. These 4 episodes kept me interested and wanting more, so naturally I continued watching. As so shall we, as next time we explore a little deeper into the life of Mion Sonozake with the Cotton Drifting arc. To find out when the next part of the retrospective comes out, be sure to subscribe and ring the bell so you get a notification when the new episode comes out. Do please leave a comment below and let me know what you think of this format, of this retrospective style, things I can change, things I can improve on, anything really. It'd be extremely helpful. I've been Michael Crewe from Crewe on the Sofa. Until the next time, when the Higurashi cry.